Okay, so if you've been watching the news recently, you would know that the Canadian Supreme Court decided that they were not going to set any minimum mandatory sentencing for anyone caught with CSAM material. Now, obviously, this is upsetting a lot of people, and I don't disagree with them for being upset, but the thing is that they're thinking it in terms of black and white, right and wrong. They're not thinking about the other possible scenarios where a minimum mandatory sentence would not work. Because the thing is that when we think of someone in possession of CSAM, we think about this horrible, awful man having a computer full of images, the abuse of minors and all these other things that just are automatically our head goes to when we think about a scenario of that. See, what we don't think about is that under Canadian criminal law, if an 18-year-old teenager, an 18-year-old boy, has a girlfriend who is 17 years old, and the two of them are so in love and hormones are raging and such, and she decides to send him a naughty little photo, that is now considered CSAM material. What he has on his phone is not just a lovely little gesture from his girlfriend, it is CSAM material. Now, are you telling me that two teenagers massively in love, just letting their hormones get ahead of them, not thinking straight, you telling me that he deserves to go to jail because she sent him one naughty little photo? Because one photo is all it takes to be considered CSAM material, and if you have a mandatory minimum sentence, then he would be required to have to go to jail for that minimum sentence. A judge does not get to decide, does not get to look at the scenario in the gray area and decide, well, this doesn't really fit. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. And I'm telling you right now, yes, there are tons of parents out there screaming and yelling, and I'm so mad at the Supreme Court for not agreeing to this minimum sentence. But I bet a lot of them have teenage sons or teenage daughters that would be very upset if one of them had to go to jail for a mandatory minimum year over something like this. And that's the problem. We don't see things in gray areas. We constantly have a scenario in our head because we want to look at the world in black and white. We have judges and we have juries because we expect and trust the law to carry out the laws and give the appropriate sentences. And when we think of the stereotypical predator that would have all of those images on their computer, we are supposed to also think that a judge would see that as horrible and give them a fitting punishment, all right? So that we shouldn't have to create minimum sentences. So while I read it too and immediately thought, what the hell? One really needs to truly sit down and think about all of the other situations that would fit and under that criminal code and would be considered, possessing CSAM material.